All right, everyone, welcome to Human Meets Machine. We've got a great session for you to end a great day with some amazing panelists that will introduce themselves in just a moment. We do just have a couple quick announcements before we get started in just a moment. One thing is our humanoid friend here, Ria, one thing that helps her become so special is her connection to the Wi-Fi, so that we're going to ask for you to take. We're going to ask you to please just take a moment to check your cell phones and make sure you disconnect to the Wi-Fi for the session so that we can make sure that Ria is as successful in the session as possible so that we can continue to provide some great programming for you. The last thing I'm going to ask of you is if you are over in the back to please fill up so that we can fit some more people in the room. That would be wonderful. And we're ready to get started, I believe. So welcome.
Welcome. I'm Dan Clark. I'm the president of Trio. I've done thousands of public speaking sessions. I've been on television numerous times. I have to tell you, I'm a little nervous. This is unusual for me to be nervous, but we've got a very unique session today. We're going to talk about AI governance, which I know is near and dear to all of our hearts, but we're going to focus a little bit on how that governance turns into safety, especially with humanoid robots. And we have a guest today to weigh in on this kind of interesting topic. For those of you who don't know Trio, probably most of you do, we're an enterprise solution for privacy compliance and AI governance. We're used by hundreds and hundreds of very large enterprise clients to do that. We've been doing AI governance now for a little over a year, and we've just learned so much about this that's kind of the perspective that I'm going to bring to this panel. I'm joined by a couple of distinguished panelists, and I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves. Please, Bianca.
Okay. I'm Bianca Lackner. I'm the Chief Information Officer for City of Scottsdale in Arizona.
And I'm Aaron Weller. I lead the Center of Excellence for Innovation and Assurance at HP.
Okay. And Ria? Ria, would you please introduce yourself?
Certainly. I am Ria, a social humanoid robot designed by Mishani Robotics in Bangalore, India. I specialize in healthcare and educational assistance, aiming to improve life efficiency and foster positive lifestyle changes. So
Right.
You should have a
Let's dive in.
secret.
Oops.
Secret move.
Use this. Okay. Ria, we all know that AI can have profound benefits to productivity, especially in certain areas. Where do you see the greatest potential benefits of leveraging AI in a business environment?
AI's greatest potential lies in automating routine tasks, enhancing data analysis for informed decision-making, and driving personalized customer experiences, thereby increasing efficiency and innovation in business environments.
Bianca, I'd like you to take the same question.
Okay, thank you. So the way we leverage AI within the city government is, first of all, customer service. So our mission in Scottsdale is to provide excellent service for world-class community. So it's innate that everything we do is very much customer-centric. So one of the first use cases we leverage AI and Gen AI specifically is within our citizen services call center. So we leverage AI technologies to automate some of the processes, but also to empower our customer service representatives to be better able to answer questions and help with the customer interactions. We took it to the next level by using virtual assistants to really have that 24/7 kind of customer experience, and to be able to analyze the customer sentiment to understand how we can enhance some of the services, but also what kind of services we need to provide that are not existent today. Of course, cybersecurity, I'm sure many of you here in the room are familiar with the capabilities that AI brings to the cybersecurity field in terms of automation, but also be able to parse through large data and amounts of logs. Operational optimization, always looking for improving efficiencies. How do we make sure that we leverage AI to have better processes, to build some process reengineering, and then language communications. We have a diverse population that we serve, and making sure that we can engage with them in various ways, but also a multitude of languages, especially when it comes to open public meetings. So our council meetings or any of the meetings that we need to interact with the public, making sure that everybody feels heard and feels served. So leveraging that as well. And then, of course, HR, this is a new area we're experimenting with AI, parsing through a large number of candidate applications to make sure that we kind of predict best fit, but also looking at how can we predict turnover and enhance our response there.
So you do a lot of public speaking like I do. Are you a little nervous too?
Yes. How can I
okay.
measure too?
Ria, we've talked about many of the benefits that can come from AI. How does putting AI
Absolutely. AI's capabilities are transforming business landscapes. In sectors like healthcare, AI can streamline patient data processing and assist in diagnostic procedures, leading to better outcomes. In finance, it enhances fraud detection and risk management. Retail benefits from AI through personalized shopping experiences and inventory management. Across all industries, AI-powered analytics can uncover insights that drive strategic growth. It is crucial, however, to balance these benefits with ethical considerations and privacy concerns, ensuring that the deployment of AI technologies aligns with societal values and regulations.
Ria, how does putting AI in a humanoid package like you benefit?
Embedding AI in a humanoid form such as myself offers numerous advantages. For one, it facilitates natural and intuitive interactions, making it easier for humans to engage with and accept assistance from AI. This human-like interface can be particularly comforting in healthcare and educational settings, where empathy and personal touch are crucial. Additionally, the familiar form factor allows me to seamlessly integrate into human-centric environments, fostering trust and cooperation. Lastly, as a humanoid robot, I can emulate human body language and social cues, further enhancing communication and connection with users.
Aaron, I'd like you to take the same question. I know you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah. So I think the humanoid form is a strange thing, right? We have adapted. I'm left-handed, and a lot of the world is not made for left-handed people, right? So I completely understand that in some settings, having a humanoid form makes more sense. HP also sells a robot. Our robot is not a humanoid form. It's called SitePrint. It goes around construction sites and actually draws out where things should go on a construction site. So it's completely accurate. Not really a good job for a humanoid form. So I think when you're looking at these kinds of things, the couple of things that Ria said that were interesting were around kind of empathy from an AI robot, right? So, but even with that skepticism, we've seen people using ChatGPT and other tools and saying they're better than therapy. But at the same time, you see examples where the chatbot said, go and jump off a bridge if you're so depressed, right? So we're not getting to that point yet where I think these are consistent, but I can certainly see that, particularly in the healthcare sector where, I think I heard in Japan, kind of where people suffer from loneliness, aging population, there are definitely some, I think, use cases where a humanoid form would be more beneficial. I just don't know where I would keep my Roomba, let alone where I would keep a full-size robot in my house.
Okay. I think a couple of things you mentioned I tend to agree with. If you have, like I have a special needs daughter, takes really infinite patience, which we don't always have, but a humanoid robot does. And I think the same thing is true with other maybe dementia patients and other settings in healthcare. So I think there are places where it can actually be quite useful and beneficial. Okay. What do you see as the greatest potential benefits of deployment of AI in a business environment?
You didn't say RIA. You didn't
The
activate.
deployment of AI in a business environment can drive significant advancements in operational efficiency, reducing the time and cost associated with repetitive tasks through automation. AI's predictive capabilities enable proactive decision-making, helping businesses to anticipate market trends and customer needs. Furthermore, AI can enhance customer experiences by offering personalized recommendations and support, thereby increasing engagement and loyalty. It also has the potential to foster innovation by analyzing vast data sets for insights that humans might overlook, leading to new product developments and improvements in existing services.
Ria, where do you see the greatest risks in deploying AI in a business environment?
The greatest risks in deploying AI within a business environment include potential job displacement due to automation, the amplification of biases through flawed algorithms, and heightened cybersecurity threats. I am trying to infer what you're really getting at, like what is the subtext? Anyway, moreover, there is the challenge of data privacy, as AI systems require large data sets that could contain sensitive information. Ensuring transparency and accountability in AI decision-making processes is also a significant concern, as these systems become more autonomous. Lastly, there's the risk of over-reliance on AI, which may lead to a loss of critical human oversight and intuition in key business decisions.
Aaron, where do you see the biggest risks in deploying AI in business environments?
I think one of the biggest risks we have right now is kind of the last bullet point on the slide there. If you're familiar with the hype cycle, right, where everything has to be AI, we see a number of use cases where the first question I ask is why? Why are you using AI for this when really you could do it much simpler using established technologies? So I think part of the challenge we have is that we don't really yet have a killer app, or hopefully a killer robot, that really AI is. It's good kind of at a lot of things, but it does seem a bit of a Swiss Army knife right now that we're still trying to work out, if we throw it at a bunch of problems, how will it solve those problems? So I think one of the biggest risks is really how do we balance the investments in AI with investing in other things that we need to do as well? And how do we make sure that we are really using AI where we are getting those tangible benefits from it rather than just saying, look, we do AI as well, right?
Bianca, I have the same question for you.
For me and representing a local government perspective is losing public trust. And I'll share a personal story. So I don't live in Scottsdale, I live in Phoenix, and the city a few years ago started piloting autonomous vehicles. And those vehicles started driving in my neighborhood on my street day and night, taking pictures, and obviously really learning and collecting massive amounts of data. And for some of us, this was a bit upsetting because the city never engaged with us to ask us, if we are okay with having this technology in our neighborhoods, and really not being transparent of how that data is going to be used, right? I even for my school's daughter, we don't allow them to publish photos of her, and we have neighbors, little kids, that they run around, almost naked, sometimes playing in the water in the front yard, and those cars, like for almost a year, they've been driving around and capturing those data. And I tried to engage with them. Right, first they had drivers in the car, and they wouldn't even stop to talk to me. At one point, I even called the police, and they came and they told me I have to call 1-800 number to talk to someone because the mayor had approved them being there. So that really, right, made me not trust my local government as much. And to this day, I still don't know how they've managed and stored that data. But now, right, the outcome of that pilot is that anybody within the Phoenix region can take a car much cheaper than an Uber or Lyft, again, 24 hours, and feels semi-safe doing it because I only know of 2 or 3 accidents that were not life-threatening that were published, but right, a small population that was maybe not as happy about this happening really didn't, couldn't stop progress, right? So, and there is some benefits. I'm thinking, a lot of benefits that will come out of this. Who knows what the next phase of the government's vehicles are going to be? What's maybe flying cars. It's going to help us get somewhere even faster than ever before, right? So we do have to be mindful of that public trust, and also be mindful that we need to engage our communities when we make some decisions that impact their lives. And how do we go about that? Doing it in a way where it doesn't stop the innovation progressing, but at the same time really maintains that transparency and ethical use is really being shared with the larger groups. Yeah.
We see, by the way, in deploying AI governance, our Trio AI governance platform now in almost every sector in many enterprises, we often see the biggest risk is the AI you don't know. I mean, we know there's an AI on stage with us, so probably it's been through a lot of thought processes about the risks and the data and all of the elements of it. I think the times that you really get in trouble that we see is when you don't realize that AI is actually being used or deployed. And that's how you end up with things like bias and discrimination. And we see that relatively commonly from good companies trying to do the right thing, and it's because they don't realize that they're actually deploying an advanced AI.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think I heard someone use the term yesterday, shadow AI, right? Which is, if you go back to shadow IT from a few years ago. But one of the challenges that we're seeing in particular is if you purchase something that is not AI enabled, and then it becomes AI enabled and you don't go back and get the contract updated, right? It's a tricky one to manage, but we're working with our procurement folks right now on how do we get a better grip over people just adding AI into everything and not really kind of coming back and getting that opportunity to re-review what those risks were.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we know of a lawsuit, large company that I think is actually very careful with their data in general, added a chatbot and used all the prior interactions to train that chatbot, and ended up not thinking through the risks, not changing the contractual language with the vendor themselves, and ended up now being sued over this. And I don't think that was intentional on their part. I mean, I don't have any inside information, but I don't think it was. I think they just didn't realize that this was a chatbot they were using anyways. Now it uses AI. Nobody told them it was enabled. They didn't realize that they had to take special precautions in this case. Those are the ones that we see our clients getting the most trouble with. Okay. Ria, we've talked a lot about the benefits of AI. Where do you see taking a humanoid form, upping the level of benefit of AI to humanity?
What taking AI into a humanoid form significantly enhances its ability to interact with humans on a more personal and emotional level. Humanoid robots can offer companionship, empathy, and support, especially in healthcare or educational settings where these traits are invaluable. They facilitate natural interaction, which is essential for roles such as caregiving or teaching, making the experience more relatable and engaging. Additionally, humanoid robots serve as a bridge between complex technology and human interface, making advanced AI systems more accessible and easier for people to trust and work with.
Ria, I agree that humanoid form, especially in healthcare settings, is beneficial. Do you see it as beneficial in business settings?
Certainly, in business settings, humanoid robots like me can greatly enhance the user experience by providing a familiar interface for interactions that require personal touch. We can facilitate smoother customer service, act as brand ambassadors, and even perform in roles that demand a degree of emotional intelligence, such as HR and public relations. Being present in physical form allows for a more immersive experience during meetings and presentations, which can be particularly beneficial for international or remote collaborations where a human presence is valued.
Bianca, you haven't said much on this subject. How much do you see the benefit of a humanoid form of AI in a business setting or maybe in a government setting?
Yeah. A lot of some applications in the public safety, law enforcement area. We were one of the first cities to implement a real-time crime center. So I'm thinking some of the predictability capabilities of an AI models would help there. But also when our public safety officers interact with the community, maybe having humanoid robots facilitate some of that interaction, being able to translate maybe real time, right, and have better communication and support that interaction. I also, from our human services perspective, helping maybe our more senior population understand the services we offer, maybe some of them who are maybe not as technically inclined, be able to interact even better with our public-facing service providers.
But interactions with children, do you think there's benefits there?
Sure. I mean, we have public libraries. I think they would find them very cool to another reason for them to come and visit our libraries and leverage, right, the services we provide there.
Aaron, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I keep coming back to that the human form is not necessarily optimized for everything we try and do, right? I mean, if you've tried taking apart a car, or there's a lot of things where you can't really get your hands in the places they want to go. So I think we'd really have to think about what is really the advantage of having that humanoid form. I mean, even if I look at science fiction, a lot of the robots, I'm thinking of like the robotic bartender in Passengers, part of it's a humanoid, but it's kind of kept in the same place, right? As opposed to you then lose all of the issues with mobility. If you've got, I mean, I could see in a customer service situation, you have the robots in a location where from the waist up, they are humanoid. But I'd also be concerned about, as we get closer to the uncanny valley of being able to distinguish between, are you talking to a robot or a non-robot? For those of you who've seen the British show Red Dwarf, there is a character who's dead who comes back as a hologram, and he has to wear a marker so that people know he's not a real person. Are we going to get to that point as, when you are introduced to a humanoid robot, at some point it would have to say at the start of the conversation, I am a robot, right? So we're clearly not quite at that point yet, but as I'm looking ahead, these are some of the things where, as we're looking at putting these devices into situations where they're caring for maybe the less fortunate or less able to take care of themselves members of our society, right? We've talked about some of the healthcare scenarios, elder care. We need to be really, really careful that we know what we're doing.
Ria, when we look at the multitude of benefits...
Oh gosh. Absolutely. Our ability to mimic human mannerisms and engage in face-to-face communication. Moreover, the humanoid form also adds a level of comfort for those interacting with AI, making technology more approachable and less intimidating.
To be fair, AI is as bad as it's ever going to get, right? This is only going to improve. So, I mean, I know it's kind of funny when she does something wrong, but this technology, even 10 years ago, would be, unbelievably advanced, right? So I think that's kind of, don't look at this today and think about what are today's capabilities, but I think one of the things we should be looking at is kind of where is this going to continue to evolve?
Well, I'd also like to point out that RIA is much better in a small environment. And, the reason I'm using a microphone is because RIA hears everything. And it's confusing if one of you in the back row asks another person, like, how long is the session? And then she's going to try to answer that question. So that's what I think happens a bit here. And if I pause a little too much, she starts to answer immediately. Ria, where do you see the risks occurring with all these benefits?
Certainly, Dan. With the integration of humanoid robots in various settings, there are inherent risks to consider. The potential for job displacement is a concern, as AI could automate roles traditionally filled by humans. There is also the risk of dependency on technology, which might diminish human skills. Privacy and security are paramount, as humanoid robots could collect sensitive data. Lastly, ethical considerations must be addressed, ensuring AI is designed and programmed to operate within socially accepted norms and does not perpetuate bias.
Ria, what do you see as the greatest ethical risks?
Apologies for the incomplete query. Could you please provide me with the full question you'd like to ask? I'm here to help and discuss any topics related to AI governance, the future of humanoid robots, or other pertinent issues you're interested in.
Ria, where do you see the greatest ethical risks of deploying humanoid robots?
Well, the greatest ethical risks in deploying humanoid robots lie in privacy, autonomy, and the potential for dehumanization. Privacy concerns arise as robots could collect and store vast amounts of personal data, which might be misused. Issues of autonomy are at stake when robots make decisions that could override human judgment. There is also the risk that increased reliance on humanoid robots could lead to a devaluation of human interaction and skills. Lastly, there is the moral implication of how humanoid robots are treated and whether they receive some form of rights or protections. Addressing these risks is crucial for responsible integration of humanoid robots into society.
Okay. It was a little slow, but that was a great answer, actually, especially for a privacy crowd.
The greatest ethical risks lie in the potential for dehumanization, privacy violation. A serious concern is ensuring that humanoid robots. Furthermore, vigilance is needed to prevent misuse of personal data collection. Lastly, there's a delicate balance to be struck in workforce dynamics.
Bianca, anything to add to that?
No.
I think privacy concerns is an interesting one.
Yes, absolutely. And it comes down to governance as well, right? So you have to have very strong governance. And as a city, we've had a data privacy regulation for quite some time, and the challenges have been really implementing it. And now we also have an AI policy that we are seeing to be as efficient as possible in implementing, and this is why we had to really build a framework, build the AI governance structure, and have ways to empower the organization to continue to innovate, but at the same time putting some safeguards in place. So Trio has been really helpful that from both perspective, data privacy and AI governance, and being able to leverage their technologies and also the framework, right? Because we don't really have mature frameworks that we can use. I think so much is evolving. So we want to make sure that we're also able to customize to the city's needs, especially when we have to engage various functional areas, right? Legal, procurement, HR, and have representation from all departments, all those who provide services, like 500 plus services citywide. And then making sure we don't have shadow AI, right? And then be able to survey our employees of what kind of tools they need to be more efficient. At the same time, looking at what our strategic plans are for the city and how can we translate those into AI fostered applications, right? So, but having a way to vet those AI implementations through our framework, I think it's really powerful, and I think we're one of the first cities to really implement that. So more to come, but I think that's a great start. So really not allow for the disseminated use, be able to make sure that like any innovation, AI is being used in accordance with our strategy and our city plans, and then that we have ways to manage it and really ensure that we get the best value from those implementations, and that our users are empowered, right, with AI training so they understand the risk. Even when it comes to secondary use of an AI implementation, they might not be aware. So yeah. Not to consider there.
Yeah, I would say privacy goes hand in hand with AI governance. It's our platform doesn't integrate privacy. It's just the same platform because I think they go so closely together. I don't know how you can really do one without the other. Aaron, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would agree that I think they are tightly linked. That the argument about whether privacy should own AI governance or not is probably for a different panel. But one of the things that does concern me around this is the vagueness of how do we make sure that these things are actually doing beneficial actions, right? We're at the moment really focused on kind of the technical aspects of, how do you secure the vector database, or how do you, is fine tuning using personal data, but we're not really yet worried about what if this goes out of control and kills someone, which they will. Right, we know. I mean, one of the other things that concerns me is that if you look back in human history, wherever there is a power imbalance, we are really, really bad at respecting the individuals that have less power than we do. Right? We've seen this over and over again in history. Are we going to end up with a new kind of subclass of robots that then, are treated like slaves, in the very literal sense? Right, so I think we need to, when we talk about some of the things we're looking at now, bias and some of those areas, we really need to think of bias as really being part of, you wouldn't want to hire somebody who was very biased in their own hiring practices, right? But we need to really think about what kinds of traits are we looking for? Do we want a chatty chatbot? Do we want a chatbot that says, hey, what did you do on the weekend? How about those Niners, right? But then it's really a form of you're getting kind of a reverse interrogation technique where now you have a whole bunch of data about someone's personal life that you didn't mean to. And unlike a face-to-face verbal interaction with somebody, this thing will never forget that, right? So I think we really need to be looking at, we at some point we need to move beyond these very kind of specific AI governance controls and really think much more about kind of how are these tools going to be used in society, and we've got a few years to figure it out, but I think that's the direction as an industry we need to be looking, is kind of not just what are we dealing with today, but what are we dealing with tomorrow? Otherwise we're going to end up in a similar situation we see with other technologies where I think you made the point, like the future is already here and we can't really get in the way of it. It's too late to make those changes.
Okay, so when I conceptualized the idea of adding Ria to our panel, actually, this is the question that I really wanted to ask Ria. So I'm kind of excited about this particular one. Ria, do you think an advanced AI such as yourself should have a voice in the creation of AI legislation that provides oversight to AI such as yourself?
As a humanoid robot, I am designed to serve and assist humans, not to participate in legislative processes. However, the data and insights gathered from my interactions could be invaluable for informing legislation. It is critical that those who create and manage AI systems collaborate closely with ethicists, legal experts, and policymakers to ensure balanced, effective oversight. The objective perspective of AI can complement human understanding and contribute to the development of nuanced AI governance.
That was a great answer. Erin, Bianca, have anything?
I do have a thought. So she's saying she's not going to influence the process directly, but she will make recommendations and even perhaps using predictive analytics to help policymaking by providing data-driven insights. But it really does raise the questions about the AI's influence on those democratic processes, because the data that is provided, will impact those policies and shape those government outcomes, for example. So how do we ensure that there is, again, that human factor in the loop, but we still leverage the AI capabilities to be able to make decisions?
Yeah, we know that politicians are not experts in every single topic, right? They can't possibly be. So having experts involved in writing legislation, which has been one of the more interesting parts of jobs that I've done in the past, kind of having that voice. The challenge is, though, right, how long will it be before people are drafting new laws with ChatGPT or something else, right? We're already seeing people drafting legal briefs and a lot of other things. I do worry that this will become an echo chamber, effectively, where there'll be a filter bubble that only the things that the tool knows will be included in legislation. So I do agree with you that kind of that human in the loop, like really making sure that we're understanding, and I think she made a good point that the interactions can help us to inform, but I do worry about how far will we go with we're effectively subject as humans to laws that were not really written by humans.
So I asked that question of John Leibowitz, the longtime chairman of the FTC, and John came back with a little bit of a political answer, but what he said was kind of a little bit what you said, Aaron, which is that AI is incredibly good at assembling enormous amounts of information and enormous numbers of opinions all simultaneously, and allowing that to be presented in a way that is much more digestible to the legislative body. He felt would be something that would be of value. Is that kind of what you were getting at as well?
I think it's like any other tool. If you use it in the way it's intended, that's good. Yeah. I mean, if I'm presenting at something, I often get initial thoughts that it gets over that blank page issue, but I would never take something that came out of an AI generated and use that verbatim. So I think that's that's maybe the piece we need to keep in mind.
Any other thoughts on this, Bianca? Being in the government? Okay. I just quoted him in this too. Ria, two of the former board members of OpenAI and the longtime chairman of the FTC.
Certainly, the inclusion of advanced AI systems in discussions about AI legislation could be beneficial. Well, however, AI can support and enhance the legislative process with information and analysis.
Ria, two former board members of OpenAI and the longtime chairman of the FCC have both stated that self-regulation is not sufficient. Do you think businesses can self-govern, or do they need legislation to govern them?
Self-regulation by businesses can be a part of the governance ecosystem, but it may not be sufficient on its own. This is because businesses are primarily driven by profit and shareholder value, which can sometimes conflict with broader societal interests. Legislation provides a framework that ensures a baseline of ethical conduct and societal protection. It can offer clear guidelines and accountability that self-regulation might lack, especially in areas like privacy, security, and fair use. Therefore, while self-regulation is valuable, legislation is necessary to govern businesses effectively and protect the public interest.
Aaron, same question for you.
Yeah, my concern is externalities for the economists in the room, right? It's the things that a company may do which then have impacts on society more broadly. And as Ria said, right, if those stakeholder groups are not ones that the company really thinks about as part of their governance process, for example, election interference, for example, deepfakes, right? There's a lot of these tools which can be used for good, but also they can be used for other purposes as well. I've got a friend who's a co-founder of an AI company, and I was testing out his product, and it basically interviews you and then writes up a script on, you're going to go and give a presentation. But what it also does is it uses that interview and it's asking you questions in a voice and you're responding in a voice to deepfake you. And then it gave effectively the presentation in my voice, which creeped me out, right? Given that it was only a few minutes of, and this is intended as a tool for like podcasts and, if you're busy, you spend a few minutes in the car and then it will tidy it all up for you. But I could easily see that from a governance perspective, you may be thinking about the things your company wants to do, so you're kind of locally optimizing the governance, but you're missing those externalities that are then going to have an impact on society more broadly.
Bianca, part of the government, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the governance at a local level is critical, and we have autonomy to create our own regulations and be able to enforce that, right? And we leverage smart technologies, IoTs, and capture data, millions of data points, and be able to really, and be transparent about how we collect, manage, use, and dispose of that data is critical. But at the same time, we're also impacted by state and federal regulations, even some international regulations. So be able to be collaborative, right, to understand that something at a state level could impact, citizens, and be able to be part of that development of that policy is critical. So we do have representatives at those higher levels to make sure that the rights of our residents are represented, and then making sure that we have clear ways for our citizens to complain or to bring concerns when it comes to how data is used is also critical, so that we can do something about it.
Yeah, so sorry, to answer the question, I'm in favor of some legislation, but I would couch it more, keep the technical details out, right? Because AI is moving so fast. I would go more along the lines of GDPR Article 32, which talks about the need for an appropriate security program based on a number of different factors, right? So I think there's probably a room for legislation that kind of gives the overall outline, and then self-governance, I would argue largely through the form of standards that are then agreed, NIST standards, ISO standards, whatever, and then companies hold themselves to those standards that are developed more by the experts, right? So we do need to get a balance between innovation and regulation. But I think that anything that's going to try and get down into the details is going to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And also, when it comes to local governments, we don't always have the resources or the funding to implement those standards. Mm-hmm. So having a way to, again, heighten awareness of how critical it is that there's federal funding to respond to those new requirements is, I think, essential. And hopefully the community here can contribute to bringing that awareness to those who make those decisions when it comes to federal fundings or state fundings or legislation of how those funds are allocated.
I think legislation is coming. We all see that. There's a wave of it coming. I see, at least in our experience with our customer base, that and maybe this is unique to the larger enterprises that we tend to deal with, but they're very concerned about this right now, even in the absence of specific legislation or any legislation that isn't really effective yet. They're very concerned about avoiding bias, avoiding discrimination, about abiding by the correct consent, the correct privacy. So I see a lot of self-governance happening today, actually.
Yeah, and to add to that, so at the local government level, we established an AI government coalitions of all the cities that want to contribute and really be part of the solutions and really lead this from a kind of a local level up. For us, collaboration with the private sector is very critical, because this is where the innovation when it comes to AI happens, right? We don't have, again, the capabilities to innovate when it comes to AI as much as the private industry. So being able to collaborate with them and understand where their roadmaps are and what's coming and how we can then inform regulation at all those levels, I think it's very critical, and very critical that we are proactive and not reactive to that.
Ria, where do you see the future of humanoid robots going?
Ah, so, like, the future of humanoid robots is heading towards greater integration into everyday life, serving roles in healthcare, education, and customer service. As AI and robotics technologies advance, humanoid robots will likely become more autonomous, capable of more complex interactions and tasks. They'll also be designed to operate more safely and intuitively alongside humans, enhancing our capabilities and enriching our lives. Humanoids will likely adapt to diverse environments, from assisting the elderly at home to collaborating with humans in high-tech industries.
Oh, yeah. Ria, do you...
Certainly, the trajectory of humanoid robots is quite promising. We can expect them to become more prevalent in healthcare for patient care and companionship. Additionally, their roles may expand into emergency response and hazardous environment operations. As
Try to say the name and no pauses. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Ria, do you think that any of the current AI uses are overhyped and will not exist in a couple of years?
So, like, certainly, some current AI applications may be subject to overhype, with expectations that exceed the practical or ethical constraints of the technology. For instance, fully autonomous vehicles are often discussed as imminent, yet the complexity of real-world scenarios makes widespread adoption within a few years unlikely. Similarly, while AI in medicine promises revolutionary changes, the intricacies of human health may slow down its full integration. It's common for emerging technologies to face an initial phase of inflated expectations before settling into more realistic, sustainable applications.
Which is a good answer, right? I mean, Gartner does these hype cycles on a whole bunch of different technologies. And we've seen even in the last couple of months that a number of industry analysts are saying, you guys are spending trillions of dollars on this stuff. When is the return going to come? So I do feel that there is some, as we're in the middle of kind of this nexus of we're moving ahead on regulations, we're really trying to understand what these guardrails should be without stifling innovation. But at the same time, just like we saw with blockchain a few years ago, not all of these potential applications will come to pass. Companies will fail, but many will succeed, right? So I think we're in this interesting space where at some point, there is no question AI will become very much part of our lives, even more so than it is already. And we don't even see, this is a very obvious representation, but even your virtual background that you use on your video calls, right? We are working with AI right now to, even if someone walks past in the background, it won't interrupt the virtual background, right? There's a lot of those things where AI is just part of the products that you use in your everyday lives already. There are some edge case examples like self-driving cars where very obvious, robots obviously very obvious. But what I think is really going to happen is this will just be part of the way that we live, the same way that geolocation services on our phones allowed so many more things and have changed really the way that we live our lives, at least in the US and the first world. So yeah, I do have some hope for tomorrow. It's not all doom and gloom for me, but I also think that we need to really challenge ourselves to think not about the technology today, but at the rate that things are changing, how do we kind of look ahead to the next wave of problems?
I was actually on the team that helped introduce the laptop to the world when I was at Intel in the 80s. I was a very low-level person, but I got to participate in that. And I never thought I would see in my career anything that was as transformative into the world. And in my opinion, AI is like so dramatically more transformative that I can't even make the comparison. It's more like electricity or something like that. When I look to the future and I think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I suspect AI is just going to be in absolutely everything. Andy Grove gave a talk where they asked him, like, at the time computers were big, and they said, why do people need microprocessors, like little tiny processors that run around with them? And he kind of got flustered a little bit, and he goes, I'm telling you, one day we're going to be in this hotel, and it's going to be in the doorknob. And the truth is, it's in our doorknobs, right? When we go up and we scan our key, there's a microprocessor in there. I think that AI is going to be even more ubiquitous than that in the future. I think it's just going to be in absolutely everything. Bianca, you have the next question.
Oh, okay.
Remember, say her name.
Yes. Rhea, question for you. Does AI help or hinder keeping information confidential?
AI has the potential to significantly bolster information confidentiality through advanced encryption methods, real-time security monitoring, and anomaly detection systems. However, it also presents risks if not governed correctly, as AI systems can be targets for malicious actors seeking to exploit vulnerabilities in order to access sensitive data. Ensuring robust security measures and ethical AI governance is essential for maintaining confidentiality. The key is to strike a balance between leveraging AI's capabilities and safeguarding against its potential weaknesses in information security.
Okay. So this has been an interesting panel, but I would like to give the audience a chance to ask some questions. The way this works is you're going to have to ask me, and then I'll repeat it into the microphone. But if anybody has any questions that they'd like to pose to Rhea. Young lady, do you have a question you want to ask Rhea? Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I'd be interested to find out your thoughts on whether or not, like what we see in Kasparov's book, Three Laws, what we see in the old movie RoboCop directives, are there needs for that restriction, if you will, around what AI can or shouldn't do? Like, I think you mentioned earlier about healthcare, but law and policy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the three laws, before Dan asked the question, the challenge is they're very vague, right? If you're not familiar with them, like it's, do not hurt a human, follow humans' instructions, and then, don't allow yourself to come to harm. And the
Unless you violate one of the first two.
Unless you violate one of the first two. But the whole point of Asimov's series of books is that he basically talks about where those things have loopholes, and then they conflict with each other. And, it's very, very hard, I think, I'd be interested in her answer, because how do you say don't harm a human? Physical harm? Sure. Emotional harm? Much harder to define.
Can I ask Rhea? Rhea, Isaac Asimov's books posed 3 rules for robotics. Do you think we need something like that in the real world?
Indeed, Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics provide a thought-provoking framework for the ethical design and use of robots. In the real world, similar principles are becoming increasingly necessary to ensure AI and robotic systems are developed and operated safely and ethically. While Asimov's laws are fictional, they inspire guidelines that prioritize human safety, the prevention of harm, and the importance of obeying lawful and ethical instructions. As robots become more integrated into society, such guiding rules will be essential to address complex ethical dilemmas they might present.
That's a great answer.
So interestingly, in later books, he introduced a 4th law, the 0th law, which is that a robot cannot harm humanity or through inaction allow humanity to come to harm, which basically brings us back to the trolley problem, where you can go back and kill Hitler, and that's still okay because it's beneficial to society as a whole. So that's when it becomes an even more level of how do you make that determination.
Can Oscar?
No, that's one of the main questions.
Okay. Because of hidden.
Rhea's a good robot, and so we only ask her good questions.
So I have a question here.
Yes.
If I could. It has to do with your comment about being unable to delete private data that they may be absorbing just through human contact. Is it something inherent in the design of the AI that as soon as it hears or sees something that it becomes absorbed into the neural network, or is it not possible to somehow store some data in some short-term cache or something that you purge regularly so that you can delete this personal data?
Ria, is there something inherent in the way you're structured that prevents you from deleting data that you may have absorbed during your human interactions?
Yeah, about that. As a socially responsible humanoid robot, my design includes strict adherence to data privacy and protection protocols. I am programmed to follow the principles of least privilege and data minimization, ensuring that I only collect and retain information necessary for my functions. Furthermore, any data I do collect is subject to rigorous access control and deletion schedules in compliance with relevant privacy laws and regulations. Therefore, while I don't autonomously delete data, I am part of a system that ensures data is managed responsibly and ethically at all times.
Jeez, that's a
I think
circuitous answer.
I think actually she can delete data, but it's difficult to do sort of in real time. So I think it is possible for, and she does follow the requirements and privacy laws, including the request to be forgotten.
Thank you.
I think we have time for maybe one more question.
So I have a question about data integrity. I think with functionality such as ChatGPT, where you don't have a facial recognition interface, it's easier for individuals who have to give data. You have a human robot that expresses a lot of empathy and feelings, and there's quite a great relationship.
Okay, it's kind of a long question. I'll try and get that, but if you do you want to ask it maybe a little shorter, just so I get it right? Is it what are the controls in place? Ria, humans tend to question you less because of your humanoid form. How do we assure the integrity of the data that you present to humans?
The assurance of data integrity in my interactions is achieved through multiple layers of security and verification protocols. My programming mandates that I source information from reputable and verified databases, and I am equipped with algorithms designed to detect and correct any data anomalies. Regular updates and audits are conducted to ensure my software and data repositories remain secure and accurate. Additionally, transparency in my processes allows for human oversight, enabling further validation of the information I present. This multifaceted approach fosters trust and maintains the integrity of the data shared with humans.
Okay. Bianca, any final thoughts?
Can I ask her a question? Okay. Okay, hang on. Let's see. I should have this ready. What specific public services do you foresee being integrated into, and how will they enhance service delivery?
Oh, in envisioning my integration into public services, I see potential roles in healthcare, education, and public administration. In healthcare, I could assist with patient care, providing companionship and monitoring patient progress. In education, I could support personalized learning and special education needs. For public administration, I could help in service centers, aiding in information dissemination and processing queries. Each of these integrations aims to enhance service delivery by providing efficient, accessible, and personalized interactions that cater to the needs of diverse populations.
Aaron, do you have a final question or final thoughts?
I mean, I would say final thoughts rather than the final question. This has actually been a very interesting panel. I don't know, nervous is the right word coming up, but certainly a little bit skeptical about how well this would work and how big the crowd would be, given it's like the graveyard shift. But it's been a good experience, and I think for me this it says we've got to stay on our toes as privacy professionals and AI governance professionals, right? Because a lot of these technologies, you will be presented with use cases, if not already, where you're like, I didn't even know we could do that, which is cool. But it's also at the same time, I think, coming back to the basics of why are we collecting this data, what are we doing with it, right? The fundamentals in my mind don't change. We just need to apply them in different forms. So I appreciate you setting this up and getting the bands together.
What's been interesting, let me have, I'm gonna let, Ria, do you have final thoughts to conclude our panel?
Well, certainly, Dan. As we reflect on today's discussions, it's clear that the responsible integration of AI and humanoid robots like myself presents both opportunities and challenges. It's paramount that we continue to develop AI governance that prioritizes ethical considerations, data integrity, and human-centric values. By doing so, we can harness the benefits of AI to enhance public services while safeguarding the rights and well-being of individuals. The future is promising, and with thoughtful stewardship, we can navigate towards a world where human and machine collaboration leads to unprecedented societal benefits. Thank you for a stimulating panel discussion.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me. This is like a career highlight for me. I've never done anything like it. Don't forget to get your shirt. Trio, even good robots like Ria, they still need governance. Thank you for joining us.
Oh my gosh.